Okay, today we're taking a look at the vehicle design system from Samaritan Press Publications. Basically, it works with Traveller as well as Cepheus engine. It's all 2D6 based, so let's get a look inside. So before we go in, actually, look at this. Looks like a rather nice sort of, what's the word, moon rover kind of thing? Or moon truck, perhaps, might be a better idea. So that gives you an idea of the sort of thing you can build with it. Anyway, let's go in. So, get past the blur, blah, 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 big load index, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so it was inspired by the design system outlined in Chapter 8 of the Ship Design and Construction from the Cepheus Engine Core Rules. So it's following the same general principles as laid out in that system. And this has been designed to accommodate as many designs as possible. Okay, so let's roll on through here. Oh, they introduce a new skill here of airship. And it's a cascade skill linked to aircraft. Okay, that makes sense. So maybe the original skill was just designed for planes, helicopters and stuff. So balloons are slightly different, I guess. Okay, vehicle-mounted weapon ranges. This had me puzzling for a little while. So they're detailing some new weapons here. That's not the problem. What I struggled with this table. So we've got a column of weapons down the side here and ranges across the top. So I started looking down here. Yeah, thrown pistols. Yeah, that makes sense. And then it goes to very long. But that's a range. But no, what it actually means is weapons that have a very long range. So it doesn't have to detail all the long-range types of artillery or laser weapons, etc. This table is just dealing with the difficulty based on it being that range. So it gives you various difficulties by range. So that's before we actually get into the body of the work here. So they talk about standard designs and new designs. So just like if you're buying a Type S, scout ship, it's generally cheaper than buying a bespoke made ship. So the same goes for vehicles. They're talking about standard components that are used in the vehicles. Standard vehicles, they have a cheaper price than bespoke made ones. So we still talk, just like starships, we're talking about displaced tons and spaces. Spaces is a subdivision of a ton, because you can't, when you're dealing with a car or a van, you can't really talk about displacement tons. It doesn't really make sense. When you're putting in, I don't know, if you're putting in an extra chair, you don't really want to talk about how many tons it takes up. So what they've done is they've created a subdivision of a ton, which is 1/12. So a lot of the tables in here of how big something is or how much space it takes up, it talks about spaces, and that is 1/12 of a ton. Okay. Just like when building a starship, there's a vehicle design checklist you can go through. So vehicle chassis, so that would be like your hull, locomotion and propulsion. So locomotion might be wheels, tracks, and propulsion might be coal-fired internal combustion engine or something like that. Okay, just like starships, crew, weapons, etc. So let's roll on. Vehicle chassis by displacement, so number of tons. So here's an example I've just highlighted. A compact car is going to be coming in at 3/4 of a ton, but it's made up of 9 spaces. So when you're allocating equipment in there, it will be by spaces. So different vehicle configurations. You've got closed vehicles, so cars, vans, tanks, that sort of thing. Open vehicles would be I don't know, your hover speeder, your motorcycle, whatever. Vehicle configurations, options. Okay, so I've already mentioned you've got open and closed type vehicles, but you've also got things that affect that, like a corrosive environmental protection system means you've got a closed vehicle, but it's got this extra details, perhaps an overpressure system built in there if you've got a nasty atmosphere outside, something like that. Okay, so you can have open cargo beds as well, which reduces the price by 20%. That's quite nice. Though you might have trouble putting that on an airplane. I'm not quite sure how that's going to work. Open frame, self-sealing, streamlined. These are all things you're familiar from the starship construction. So let's roll on here. Of course, vehicle armour, very important. I can't imagine you're going to be making up your standard car or van with this system. But if you're making an armoured vehicle up, then it can make sense in your game to actually know how much protection you get from that. So, because you're going to get shot at, you are. Players are always getting shot at. I found this quite interesting. It's got a wood type armour. I'm not... well, unless you're being shot at with arrows or thrown spears, I'm not sure it's going to do you too much good, to be honest. But there you go. Okay, so different add-ons to your armour, if you like. So here we've got a electrostatic field. So basically electrified hull, that's what we're talking about here. And they can get up to 66 damage from that. I thought that was a nice little feature. Another one here, stealth. So, yeah, stealth boats. Stealth. I don't know if you'd have stealth cars. Does that make sense? Perhaps if you're on a flat desert world, you might want to have stealth features built into your vehicles. Anyway, rolling on again. Vehicle different drives. Yeah, so external combustion. So coal or wood fired. So you could be creating steam powered stuff with this, but it goes all the way down to antimatter via fusion and turbines, etc. So we've got the whole, gamut of tech levels catered for. Okay, propulsion type. So you could have sails. So it's not actually engine powered, but sail powered. Tracks. It's a mole, so it's going underground. That's interesting. Or legs. So if you want to have your walker robots, this can give you the ability to build them. Drive costs by space is taken up, and the price. So again, drive codes, just like with starships, and capabilities and results of those. The size of the chassis versus the engine type, and what sort of results, maneuver factors you get out of that. Drive performance based on types again. I'm not quite sure. I can't remember what this is. Is this meters per second, perhaps? I'm not sure. Vehicle fuels. So a nice table here of power plants for your vehicle. How much fuel it's going to be using up per... per fuel? I'm not sure what the... rate of fuel. Okay, fuel consumption. Okay, that's what I thought this table was looking at. Not quite sure what that first table is. I'll have to come back to that later on before I actually use this. So tech levels, limit your fuel. So this is quite interesting. 3 types of fusion plant involved. Early, fusion and advanced with different tech levels. So that's kind of interesting. That gives you different rates of fuel usage. So 0.5 or as much as 1 per. Okay, vehicle drives. You can have... This amused me. Secondary drive systems. So you could have, like the World War II Duck W, which was, halfway between a truck and a boat. So it had wheels on it, but it also had propellers. So it had a secondary drive system. So I found it sort of very anime here to have extra legs. So as it says, walkers are assumed to have 2 legs. So let's say one leg gets blown off and then it metamorphoses to suddenly produce, oh look, extra legs. Additionally, I suppose if you've got those extra legs, then you've got a vehicle that can be upright or on 4 legs, perhaps. So some sort of conversion, maybe. Possibilities are endless. This amused me. Any ground vehicle or hovercraft can be built with jump jets now. I can't imagine one party that's not going to want to have jump jets built into their car just so they can jump over any roadblocks. That just amused me anyway. Rolling on, vehicle agility. Now this is interesting. This is how difficult the vehicle is to pilot. So... like an airplane has a -2 modifier. If it's underground, it's a -4 if you're flying that mole underground. Sailing ships, I think, where's ground craft? Can't see it. A walker, you get +1. Interesting. Wheeled ground vehicles, there you go. So they're very easy to manoeuvre. +2. Okay, vehicle control. So again, exoskeleton linkage. So again, you could be classic Battletech scenario where you've got an exoskeleton inside. You climb into that and that controls the entire vehicle. Thought that was interesting. Or right up to neural link if you dare. That sounds like wiring into your brain, which sounds like a bad idea to me. Okay, and you can have vehicle drone controllers as well. So you could have a drone car running as a decoy, possibly. Robotic brains, which basically it's a computer giving you a skill level for driving. So your robo cab driver, for instance, that sort of thing. And then this horrific idea here of cyborgs controlling your car. And it's not a walking, talking cyborg, it's an organic brain. Reminds me of McCaffrey's The Ship That Sang, I think the book was called. Absolutely horrific idea of having a human brain inside and running a ship. Although it can conceivably give you a human interaction with that ship, but just the whole concept is revolting. I can easily see having a faction in my Cepheus game where on this planet they use these and then there's some kind of pogrom to put that disgusting practice down. I can easily see that coming in. Okay, vehicle communication systems. Again, that's pretty standard. You can have radios and point-to-point transmission systems. Vehicle sensors, so similar to those installed on a starship or a small craft. DMs on comm skill, etc. So yeah, radios, etc. All the usual sort of stuff there. And then I went a bit wild here. Computers on your vehicle, it just seems wrong. It just seems evil that they only take up this amount of space. I'm classic traveller with regards to science fiction computers. The small computer will probably only take up about 20 tons, and that slate or tablet that your PC is carrying around the starship with his checklist on it is probably 3 inches thick and 12 inches by 8. It's that kind of old style clunky computer system. That's what I like. I'm very anti-robot, let's just say that. I don't like self-driving robots. Just evil and wrong and shouldn't be allowed. Additional vehicle components. Now, of course, you're going to want an airlock if you've built that vehicle on the cover. You're travelling around on a planet where you need some kind of rover, then you're going to need an airlock in the back of it. Cargo arms, etc. Cargo trailers, yeah. Detention cells? Yeah, most parties have friends they pick up and have to question later. Ejection seats. Well, definitely you need an ejection seat on your motorcycle, so I can definitely see players going for that. And entertainment systems. Audio, visual entertainment, and players intending to impress may want to spend much more than the mere 200 credits suggested. Well, that's true if you want to be able to hear the bass 3 blocks away. Okay, lots of different things you can add in there. And a refueling station. This caught my mind because starships obviously can scoop and refine their own fuel. And indeed, they've got here a way of doing it on your vehicle. So if you have got a vehicle that's designed to explore a new planet, perhaps, then having something that can turn water into hydrogen fuel, and as it says here, powered by the sun, sounds like a terrific idea. You could see that sitting on the back of your rover, and you just walk into a nearby river and then dump a few gallons into the back, and solar power would take care of the rest, converting that into immediately usable fuel. I think that's a brilliant idea to come up with. Anyway, rolling on. Wet bar. Of course, we need a wet bar in your vehicle. Perhaps you're doing a armoured limousine type thing. Anyway, so here you can see the various tech level requirements and the number of spaces they take up to implement. Vehicle armaments, okay. Players are going to want that limousine, but it's going to need some gun ports on it because, they're getting into trouble, and obviously the bad guys are always chasing them. So you're going to want to add a few gun ports on there. So a gun port to me always meant a porthole in the side of the vehicle, such as you see on modern IFVs. But the gun port concept is a little more than that. it's going to take up some space in this case. So I'm assuming it's talking about, if you want a revolver gun port, then it's going to have to take up some space. Yeah, you're going to have holes punched through the armour. You're going to have a wide angle of vision, etc. So, yeah, perhaps that revolver's stored next to the port. I don't know. I'm not quite sure what the concept here, but to me it always just meant a hole. But here it means a configured area for a particular weapon type, rather than just a hole in the outside. Weapon mounts. Okay, fixed, ring, and pintle. So a ring mount, I think you see this on trucks that are in convoys. Military trucks, that is. There's often above the cab, there's a ring mount for a machine gun or similar. And a pintle mount is a fixed position machine gun, such as you would see on the old Shermans in World War II. They had a machine gun fitted on the back of the turret that could be fired by somebody on the back there, but I believe that was pintle mounted. And fixed is just going to be something that fires out the front, more than likely than not. Vehicle turrets, of course. That limousine needs a pop-up turret, doesn't it? Because, well, players. What are we going over? Oh, now we're getting into some interesting stuff. I got a little focused on having a ballista and a catapult, so just the idea of having a ballista on the back of your limousine was rather amusing to me. But there's a few suggestions. So again, everything from a ballista to mortars and up to machine guns, howitzers, and whoa, that's a lot of new weapons there. Various tech levels. So a Meson accelerator on the back of your limousine. Why not? Why not? And it goes on and on. Okay. Vehicle, weapon, ammunition. So, yeah, ammunition takes up space. The bigger the barrel, the bigger the amount of space it takes up. Ordnance base. Basically, this seems to be presented as bomb bays. So, a heavy nuclear bomb ordnance bay housing 4 such bombs being a good example. So, okay, a bomb bay on an aircraft makes sense. Not so much in the limousine. But then again, you could be carrying mines to drop as you try to escape somebody. Yeah, I could see that. Missiles, lots of different types of missiles. We're going from, simple HE right through nuclear. Antimatter smart guided missiles, yeah. Again, let's put that on the limousine, eh? Don't tell the referee. Anti-missile systems. We have these today. Ships have a lot of machine guns that are set up to, or miniguns, I should say, that are set up to intercept incoming missiles. So it makes sense that you'd have them. But we've also got smoke dischargers, chaff throwers, decoy systems. Again, ships these days, destroyers, etc., can carry a decoy ship with them. Large, reflective, inflatable. They drop out the back as a missile decoy when they're attacked. Amazing. Anyway, lots of options here. Special rules for special vehicles. Yeah, alien vehicles and airships and balloons. And if you're using an airship, you need a big balloon on top. And of course, that varies. If you've got a thin atmosphere, you need a much larger balloon. So some rules for catering for that. I say I'm scrolling past lots of paragraphs with rules in that need to be reviewed. You can get pretty detailed with this system. And of course, animal-powered vehicles. So your wagon pulled by horses. And we're talking about wind-powered vehicles, and I just wrote this over here. Got me intrigued, the idea of a wind-powered walker carrying a ballista. So, I was thinking wind-powered doesn't have to be a sail. You could have a vertical turbine-type arrangement, which could be collecting power, possibly driving directly on legs. There are leg-based walkers, not vehicles, but I don't know what you'd call them, prototypes. There are wind-powered machines that walk already. I've seen videos of them on beaches and things. So the idea that you could in fact have a wind-powered walker robot and it's carrying a ballista which you could do with this system. That just amuses me no end. I could see that. I could see your players landing on a low-tech world with a wooden armoured robot that's wind-powered carrying ballistas. You can do that with this system. Okay, some additional special rules for those heavy vehicles, those extra heavy tanks like that. And then an attempt at a UPP for the vehicle. You can see it's been broken down here. But rather like the UPPs you get for spacecraft, it gets a bit unmanageable, I think. I don't tend to use the spacecraft UPPs because there's just too many numbers there to make it useful to me. I would still have to look up each of them, whereas a character UPP I understand straight off the bat. The same with planets. I can work out what everything is just looking at that. But as soon as you get into vehicles, etc., it starts getting a bit mad. Same for starships. So now we move out from building into a few template designs for you. So common aircraft, common grav vehicles, including the traditional air/raft. What more we got? Grav tank, lovely. The speeder, yeah, for that Star Wars feel. Some common ground vehicles, an AFV, armoured fighting vehicles, ATV for just getting around. Ground car, yeah. Stagecoach, as I said here, with a ballista, because why wouldn't you? Fans, yeah. Common watercraft. Okay, so tech level destroyer, one of the small warships. You can do that with this system. Hovercraft, motorboats, yeah, pretty normal. Let's see, is there anything else here? Uncommon vehicles. Okay, a tunnel boring machine. So there were rules earlier for building a machine that I think it referred to it as a mole, so going underground. So that would be a tunnel boring machine. But I could also see something like that being useful on a desert world where it's moving through sand or gravel. You could actually move at a reasonable pace, I think, in a high-tech machine underground in those conditions. Going through stone, perhaps not so much, unless you're melting tunnels as you go. Updated common vehicle stats, and then we're at the end of the book. So, there you go. Took me a bit longer than I expected to get through there, but there is an awful lot in this book. Again, let me reiterate, I can't see you using this for every vehicle in your game. It would take too long to stat that up. But if you're like this cover image here, if you've got a rover, you're going to be an exoplanet rover, then yeah, you're going to want to stat that up. There's things about that vehicle that's going to come into your game. It's going to be running away from bad monsters. It's going to be chasing the bad guys. So you need to have some terms of reference on how to relate one vehicle to the other and see whether you can catch up or how much damage it can take before breaking down. And that's where this vehicle design system from Samaritan Press Publications comes into its own. There you go, that's all for now. Speak to you next time.